And start. All right, welcome to the Rams Agents Production Coaching Call. The goal of the call is to help you sell more homes by maximizing your repeat and referral closings by implementing the Referral Agent Mastery System into your practice. My name is Mike Cerrone, a co-founder of Rams Agents, and my co-host is Angela Newman, a master trainer of Rams Agents. Hello, Angela. How are you today?
Good morning, guys. I am doing great. How are you?
Fantastic, fantastic. Good to hear your voice. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and jump in. Um, let's do this. Let's go through some good news. Who has some good news they'd like to share?
Well, I am expecting signatures on a listing agreement or signature on that, and sent out the agreement after a good conversation yesterday evening with the seller, with the property owner, and we discussed all the terms. And I said, I'm going to send it all over to you for electronic signature. You probably won't get this. I knew she wouldn't get it until after dark because I had some other things with the family. I was going out to dinner and stuff. So I said, it'll be after dark, but I'll get it to you. You can sign it tonight or tomorrow, whenever you get a moment, and we'll get this thing on the market. So I've got a listing agreement.
Got it all signed off on?
I'm sorry?
It did get signed?
No, it has not. That's what I meant. I've got a listing agreement that should be signed any moment.
Cool.
I would think by midday today, probably.
And to get that signature, which technology did you use to do that electronically?
Oh, I'm using that's on in Dotloop, which is provided by our brokerage, my brokerage.
Yeah, it's provided for free by Epic for
Yep.
Epic Agents. Pretty cool. I've used that as well. Really liking it. Way better than the old days of going and having to get fax signatures, get fax shrink, 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 shrink. And I'm old enough that it was even beyond before that. We had to courier everything around, either ourselves or hire a courier to actually physically take it to places. I remember dropping off my very first purchase offer for a buyer, my very first buyer. I had to drive 30, 35 minutes across town. Even though the property was near me, the agent was far away, and I had to bring this packet in a manila envelope with the offer and all the supporting documentation and the check, physical check, uh,
Yeah.
clipped to it, and I had to drop it in the box at their drop box. We all had drop boxes, and anyway, any old timers might remember all that. And so this electronic signature stuff, this is really, really cool. I know it's been around a while, but to me, wow, it's just amazing. All right, cool. Well, congratulations on getting that in process. Sounds like you're going to get that listing, and that listing is, if I remember, if it's the right one, it's a tenant occupied listing. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's tenant occupied. So we've got a few things to work through on that as far as if we have a active buyer or active prospect, then we're gonna, need to give proper notice to the tenant to come in and take a look inside and all that kind of stuff. But I'm certainly going to be marketing it as a terrific investor opportunity and not because it needs to be fixed up. So there's two different things, there's usually you say investor on a MLS, that's just a signal right off. This place needs to be fixed. It needs some work. Not the case here. This is investor friendly because it is turnkey. The tenant is already there. Property management company is already there. This literally could be just transferred over. Ideally, the property management company will just keep it in place. That would be the sweetest deal, I think, for an investor.
I think that's a great way to approach it, Blake. I'm glad you mentioned that. You're always 3 steps ahead of me. I was going to bring that up today. That's why I asked. Um, just a recap for everyone else that may be listening. Tenant occupied properties are typically harder to sell, a single family home, because you have a tenant who may or may not want to show. You've got a time issue with them of when you can actually sell this property and have a transfer. It creates some challenges. Uh, the flip side is you can do what Blake is doing. You reduce the number of buyers, but you can go directly to investors if you have Well, he just used the turnkey option. And so if you do have the turnkey option, you have a tenant in place, they're making payments, they've been making payments on time, et cetera. You can use that information and promote it that way. And you can do call outs in the MLS. This is a great property for an investor, a turnkey property for an investor, prime condition. And then you want to go down whatever else you can do there. And that's the last part I want to talk about, which is the numbers. In your market will be different than mine because I'm a very high priced market. You're more of a mid-range market. And so you may have the ability to share positive cash flow, right? Like mine, it would be negative cash flow for most of the properties. So it's kind of a turn off. But if you can run numbers and show where you've got positive cash flow for an investor, that could be very beneficial, even if it's just break even. That could be a plus. Even if it's a small loss, whatever it is, you're going to have to show the numbers to the investors anyway. You might as well get it out there in front and turn it into an attraction piece, a positive piece. This property cash flows XYZ with this current tenant. Walk in and have it all in place. This is great for a new investor, brand new investor who just wants to walk into a property that's already up and running with a paying tenant. This is great for an existing investor who just wants to add to their portfolio. If you're a buy and hold investor, that's the other term, buy and hold investor, this is a great property for you. So try to think of those keywords because those keywords, remember, can be searched. So buy and hold, cash flow, start thinking investor, ROI. And Angela, you can throw in any other terms you can think of that you might want to put in the MLS for an investor focused property where you have a property that's tenant occupied and you want to market it out to other investors. Do you have any other advice, Angela? I know you work in that world. What do you think?
I think a lot of investors are going to be curious about what the lease terms are. So just making sure that you have that available, ready for them. Any expenses that are currently like lawn care, pest service, anything like that. But yeah, they're going to want to know how long is the lease, how long has the tenant been there, how much are they paying, things like that.
Good points. And who's responsible for what as far as payments? Who pays what? Like if you have an HOA, who pays the HOA, who pays the taxes and insurance, who pays insurance, who pays water, electric, whatever needs, those little things need to be brought up. Another idea here, is this a single family home? Is this a house?
It is. Yes.
Okay. So you've got two places you can list this in your MLS typically, right? You can list it in the residential section, and every MLS will be slightly different, but you can list that out just in the home section, the regular residential section. You can also then list it in the income section where you have an income property, right? Like a multiple unit property, but you could do it for single unit. Check with your MLS. I'm sure you can with your particular MLS, but you could add it in there. So in my MLS, I'm pretty sure I can put it in as a single family. And then they have a section where I can click and I can add, hey, I also want to show this over in the income section. And then in the income section, it will have a lot of these details we're talking about, the cash flow items. But I would definitely put the cash flow items in your remarks, the public remarks, in your regular listing, and then just copy that over to this income listing. But in the income listing, it's going to say, how much is the rent, and they'll ask how many units, and ask those types of questions that an investor is looking for. Anyway, you're trying to figure out how much you can leverage. You could even do well, I don't know if you could do an open house. I was going to say like an investor open house. Maybe you could do an investor webinar. You can do video that's showing the investment side. You know how they do the slideshows with the pictures of the property? Maybe you can throw in the cash flow statement from that.
That's a great idea, the video. I never thought about that.
You can attach, in my MLS, I'm sure, again, it's so universal now, it'd be rare not to have the same things. You can attach documents into your MLS listing. You could attach these kind of things in there, not only the disclosures, but also the statements of income, expenses, the P&Ls, the cash flow statements, whatever you have in there would probably be valuable as well. You may attach a copy of the lease in there.
I don't know if I would do that. Well, if you did, just block out the tenant's personal
Right,
information,
right.
See, I got Angela saving the day. Good job, Angela. What do you think about putting the numbers in there?
Oh yeah, put as much information as possible, as much numbers, because it's going to be, a decision based off of financial, information, and as well as the tenant information. I would also recommend to do as much photos, even a video walkthrough, whatever you can do so that there's not a high amount of traffic. Or instead of an investor open house, what you see a lot of times is, okay, we're only going to show it Monday from 12 to 1. We're only going to show it Tuesday from 12 to 1, Wednesday from 6 to 7. Just You don't have to do it that way, but depending on the tenant, if the tenant is very keeps a tidy house and they're very flexible and they're like, hey, you guys just come and show it whenever you want, then you have more flexibility. But if they're kind of on edge about it, then you could try to keep the traffic to a minimum just for them and to make sure that they have the house ready, at that time. Um, but the videos and the photos will help people be able to get as much information as possible without seeing it in person. And then also with the tenants, I was always very conscious of their stuff. And so if they had a really nice electronic setup or something, then I wouldn't try to include that in the photo. Or if they had something unique that would maybe share too much personal stuff, then I would try to avoid that. But yeah, photos definitely help.
Good advice. Thank you.
One other quick idea there on the financials, add the word pro forma and estimate. Make sure that that's in there. It's not guaranteed. These numbers are not guaranteed. If you think the rent is low, you can say that the rent is currently blank, but this property would be the type of property that could probably rent out for X. You're trying to put out all the highlights. Another property down the street that looks just like it is renting for Y, if you know that information. I've actually seen people do that really well in my market currently with house sales. This property is selling for X, but hey, check out the property down the street. It's the same size and it's selling for Y, X amount more, and giving the concept of, hey, you could do something to this house to improve it, to make it be that value. So I just had a property on my block actually sold in under 30 days using that strategy. And our market is really, really slowing down. So that was pretty impressive. Anyway, good luck with that.
Yeah, thank
can't wait
you.
to hear what you do with it. Hope that was a little helpful. Good news. That was good news. All right. Anybody else have some good news you'd like to share?
Well, I just had to step away for a minute, but it was a buyer lead that I've been kind of nurturing for, I don't know, I could look and see, but probably at least 6 months, and just contacting me about a property to see if I could get more information for her. So we'll see.
Nice. Congratulations. That's great. And how did you find that lead? Do you remember?
She came through Op City.
All right. Good. Good. So you've got a referral fee you'll pay out if it closes, but the lead comes to you and you just had to jump on it and get in touch with them quickly. Is that the right idea?
That's correct. And actually, I did some virtual showings for her a while back, and they were on the lower income side, or not income, lower price side. They were about $200,000 condos. And this property that she's interested in is 669 is the list price. And I asked her, what are you liking about it? What's drawing you to this property so I could get a better idea of why she's picking this one. And she was like, well, it's in my price range. I like this part of town. I like the schools. I like that it's 2-story. I like the decor. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I'll do that research for you and get back to you in about an hour and a half. Does that work for you? And she said, yeah, that works great. I said, okay, perfect.
Wow. So what I'm hearing is the lead originally came in at a very low price, 200,000. You might have discarded it saying, oh, I don't want to sell property that low in my market. And it turns out she's qualified for 3 times that amount.
Yeah, that's what she's saying. So yeah, we'll do the investigation, but yeah,
Nice.
that's in her price range. So
Creating
that's a pleasant
relationships.
surprise.
Good job, Angela. All right, Blake, I forgot to ask you, where did your listing come from?
It's a referral from another agent in my brokerage. So
Right.
it came from another part of the state.
That's awesome. And
Yeah,
you've gotten several referrals from a group of agents in another part of the state who know you work in, they're in like the central part and you're up in the northern part, correct?
that's right. I'm in the northwest part of Georgia, and also I serve Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I have several agents that are in the Atlanta area, which is a couple hours away, and they are in that region, and so they send me stuff, obviously with some frequency, because I've gotten several referrals over the past few months from the Atlanta agents that are in my brokerage.
And if I recall, in an effort to generate more of those referrals, you recently, I think just last week, went down to Atlanta, the central part of the state, and met with a bunch of agents from the company.
I
Uh,
did.
one, just to get around and experience, create relationships, but also the business minded part. Hey, might get some more of these referrals.
That's right. That's right. It was a good day well spent. I went to the Atlanta Realtors Association big showcase event, and all of my brokerage folks were there, and we had a real good time together and got to chat about things, and I got to remind everybody where I was in the state. So
Sweet.
my physical location.
Good job, Blake. Good job,
Yep.
Angela. Hey, Tristan, you got any good news you want to share?
I got my hands a little full at the moment. Yeah, listing yesterday, agreement signed, and should be on the market next week.
Congratulations. We'll make it real fast. Where'd the listing come from?
Referral.
Nice. So referral from your PCS, so a past client or a sphere of influence?
Yeah, past client.
Nice. Fantastic, Tristan. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Um, that's all I'll take of your time unless there's anything else you want to share.
No, nothing else for now.
Cool. Thanks, Tristan. That's great news. So we got 2 pieces of business that came in by referral and one came in by Op City this week. And then I'm meeting today with a seller. That's a past client. So that's my little good news, and we'll see what happens or comes out of it. Looking at probably listing a property next month. I'll just give a little bit of the story on this one because it's kind of interesting. I restarted my little business at the beginning of the year and sent out some postcards to some past clients, and some of them responded, and I took a few of them out to lunch. 3 of them, I think. and they called me and wanted to talk about real estate. So we went out to lunch and talked about real estate. Actually 4 or 5. Anyway, there's been several who have contacted me, but I've taken 3 out to lunch. And one of those, this particular situation, I had met with them. They owned a property. They were thinking about selling it. People were telling them to rent it. They currently have somebody living there, another family member, and when that person leaves, which is coming up in September now, and kind of knew about this early in the year, they were thinking, everybody was saying to rent it. This gal did not want to do that. Everybody's telling her she wanted to sell it, and everybody said don't sell it. And so I talked with her, and we sat down and chatted. I basically tried to give her an idea of something completely different. Why don't you just keep the property and leave it vacant? Because she has a really teeny mortgage on it. She likes it. She wants to keep it. At that point when we were talking, I said, why don't you just keep it? Just keep it vacant. People do it all the time. They have vacant properties. I heard recently, in fact, I don't know, it's some crazy number, like 16 million vacant properties in the United States. Anybody hear that? It's just a crazy number. I never realized it was that many. But I've heard that a couple different times now, so I've got to assume it's correct. And I even have a vacant property in my family, so I know these things happen. So anyway, I said, why don't you just keep it vacant? And we kind of set out a plan and some things she had to research to do that. And this was months ago. She's like, yeah, she's really happy coming out of that meeting. And I'm like, great. So that to me is like doing the right thing. This solves her problem. It has nothing to do with me. There's no future business. I'm just like, yeah, this is what you should do. And here's how to go about it. Anyway, she contacted me last week and said, yeah, I've been thinking about it. I don't want to do the vacant thing. I just want to sell it. Why don't we talk and get this done? Like, great. Okay. So, you do the right thing for people. It all works out. And that's my advice. Just always give people the best advice you can based on their circumstances, and it's all going to work out. All right. That's my little story. I'll let you know how that works out down the road. All right. So that was our good news for today. Let's turn around. Let's open this up. Let's change the topic. What challenges are you experiencing in your real estate career that you would like the mastermind to think about, focus on, and talk about? Do you have any challenges, problems, situations, positive or negative, that you would like us to talk about or review? All right, while you're all thinking about that, I'll just share. I've already shared this with some of you, but I used a service that I hadn't used before. Again, I'm trying to get back into this business, but I was just talking to Blake at the beginning of the call. I'm really kind of going slow into this because I know personally I can become an animal, and if I do, it will absorb every minute of my day. And my wife's made it clear that will be the end of us. So I'm going to do that because it was very rough and tumble last time. I did sell a lot of houses, but I was very unbalanced, and I don't want to do that again. So I'm a little paranoid. And so I'm trying to figure out ways and systems to make sure that doesn't happen again. I think I've already told you I try to work Monday through Friday in restricted hours. I don't want to work on the weekends. And I was given an example of where I've got a listing now, and she contacted me with what seemed like an urgent problem over the weekend. And I had to say to myself, I'm not going to respond to this. She likes texting. So I'm not going to respond to this text. I'm just going to wait till Monday and deal with it then, which is what happened. And that's what we did. The problem, by the way, was the listing went active and it went out everywhere, but it didn't make it to Zillow. Zillow wasn't showing it for whatever reason. So Monday I got with my MLS and I contacted Zillow and tried to get this resolved. I still don't have it resolved, by the way, but it was fine for me to wait till Monday, because I then brought her into the loop. This is a lady for the listing. And I just told her everything that's going on. I said, yeah, you're right. I see what you're saying, and let me see what I can work out. And I just kept her in the loop all the way through the day, gave her little reports on how we were dealing with the problem. And so she's very satisfied. It turns out she's mad at them, not mad at me. So it worked out pretty good. So I'm trying to figure out how to do things like that. And one of the other things that I'm utilizing is buyers want to go out and look at property on the weekend. It's just a common thing. How do you deal with that? So it turns out this listing also wanted to see a property that she had noticed on Zillow, and thought it was a fantastic property. It was really far away. It was a 45-minute drive from me. Wanted to go out on the weekend. I said, okay, let me get that worked out for you. What time do you want to go? And she gave me Saturday at 10 a.m. I said, fantastic. I said, let me get it set up and give you a call back. She said, great. So I went ahead and got the showing scheduled. But then I turned around and used a brand new service for me. It's been around a while, but I've never used it before, called Showami. So I'm trying to leverage through other people. And you could hire a showing agent, but I'm not at that point. So I just leveraged temporarily through another agent who went out and showed the property. And so that's exactly what we did. And it cost me $50, plus I gave the gal a $5 tip, because she is actually very close to me, and she drove all the way out there and back, which is fine. That's her choice. But the service worked great. I was able to list it out there, and within an hour, somebody accepted the assignment. And it was all done and done very professionally. I had great feedback from the agent that I could then turn around and give to the list from the showing agent, so that I could turn around and give that to the listing agent, which the listing agent was grateful for. It was negative feedback, by the way. Don't be afraid to give negative feedback. It's actually helping that listing agent with their seller. Maybe they don't realize what's going on, and that was the situation here. And so in any event, I just want to point out that you have these tools, and the one I used was Showami. Anybody else use Showami? Okay. So anyway, it's something to think about, having your toolbox if you can't show a property, because like I know, Angela, you're working 2 different markets, and maybe you're out of town, and you're one of the people that I know you've lined up people to help you, but they're not available. Keep this Showami in your back pocket. It worked pretty good.
Yes, I'm definitely, that's on my list of tools to check out for sure. I've signed up for it. I just haven't got to do much more than that, but sounds very interesting.
Cool. All righty. Has anybody thought of a challenge or an issue that you would like us to address as a group?
Yeah, I have one. Okay, so since I've been writing the note on my business cards when I'm door knocking, I've been getting a lot more like people reaching out, like phone calls and stuff and text. And there's a lady that reached out maybe last month, and she said she was going to be selling this month, but she does like dog shows and stuff, so she's been kind of busy. So it's been a challenge in order to get the listing appointment, because at first she was like, well, I still got to do some painting and repairs, so call me in a couple weeks. And then I called her in a couple weeks, and she's like, well, this week's kind of busy. I have my dog shows. Call me next week, which was this week. So I called her on Monday, no answer. I texted her yesterday in the afternoon and no answer. So now I'm thinking like, do I just let it breathe? Do I call her maybe again later in the week? Should I roll up to her house and just knock on her door, introduce myself, and try to set up an appointment? Is that too aggressive? So I'm just curious, like, how should I play it? Because I'm kind of conflicted about if I should just, I don't know, like maybe send a postcard or something, or if I should just go to her door and be like, hey, I'm Tristan Scott, the guy you reached out to, been trying to get a hold of you. Can we set an appointment to get this property on the market? So I'm just curious what you all are thinking about that.
Great question. It's a great problem to have. Love it. So what Tristan's talking about, just to give you anybody who doesn't know, Tristan is a door knocker. He knocks on doors all the time, does a great job. And what he does is, if they don't answer, he will leave them something. And now what he's doing is he's leaving a business card. He's flipping the business card. He's making a little note. We can ask him what the actual personal note is now, but basically along the lines of, hey, if you're thinking about selling this home, let me know. Or I may have a buyer for this home. Depends on what his situation is at the time. Or a great note is, hey, if you thought about selling this home, give me a call, right? And so we'll ask him what his actual message is, but he's doing it on the back of the card. He put that up there, and somebody contacted him, said they're interested in selling the following month, and now he's trying to get a hold of them, and he's having this challenge. And so the question he's asking is, What, how aggressive should he be? And here is my question back to Tristan. By the way, if you want to be a great lister, buyer agent, any kind of agent, by the way, just ask a lot of questions. Always get the other person talking. So think of questions and get them talking and thinking. You're going to win. You're going to win. The more you talk, the higher the probability is you're going to lose. The person who talks the least is going to win. Okay, so ask a lot of questions, get the other person talking. You got to find out what they want to do. Anyway, so my question to Tristan is very simple. Tristan, if you decided to take the light approach and only contact this lady maybe through a postcard, or maybe just wait till next month, and then you drove by her house 3 weeks from now and there's another person's listing sign sitting in the yard, how are you going to feel?
Sick.
Are you going to think, man, I should have been more aggressive, I should have reached out more?
Mm.
Yeah. And so that's my advice to you, is you reach out as aggressively as you think is necessary and you're comfortable with, because if you don't, you're going to feel terrible if you don't get it. Look, this is not a sphere of influence. This is not your best friend. This is not somebody who knows you well. You need to stay in front of this person. Tomorrow they could be talking to their neighbor who says, oh yeah, my cousin is a real estate agent. Why do you talk to them? Right? You need to stay in front of them. You've got the right instinct. You want to set this appointment as soon as you can. So yes, go knock on her door. Yes, send a postcard. Yes, call her on the phone. Yes, do a banner that flies over her house. No, don't do that. That's too expensive. But try to do any of these. Text her. Some people love text. And the only thing that I'm going to add to this equation when you're doing the reach outs is bring something of value. Give her something of value. I used to hear that all the time and I'd be like, okay, I understand what you're saying, value, but what the heck does that mean? I don't know what you mean. Something, you want me to give her a piece of gold? What do you mean of something of value? So let me be more clear. Bring her a copy of a listing that's down the street that's just like hers. Okay. Bring her a CMA, a free CMA. Just say, hey, I just prepared this for you. I just had a couple extra minutes. I put this together for you. And hey, here is a valuation on your home. Bring her a pre-listing packet. You know what a pre-listing packet is? Same idea. Here's how I sell homes here. And it depends on what you want to include in it, but it'll be, here's how I sell homes. Here's all the way down to, in mine, I used to have the valuation. I used to have all the comps. If you have her email address, you could email her comps. Hey, I just was looking in the MLS and I noticed these properties are selling in your neighborhood. Thought you might want to be interested and take a look. Again, if you don't have her email, then you can call her with that information. If you don't have the phone, go drop it on her door. Just bring a little manila envelope and drop it there, right? Early on, when I was messing around with some expireds, I did that and I almost got a listing appointment, but I finally got a hold of the seller by dropping a manila envelope on the door. And I'm trying to remember what I put in there. I think it was just comps. I was on the phone and I couldn't set the appointment. And so I ended up dropping a manila envelope off. I knocked on the door, nobody answered. And then as I was driving away, they called me and they said, oh, I saw you just drop something off. I couldn't get to the door fast enough. And I said, great, and we were able to schedule the appointment. So I got myself scheduled, but they were already interviewing a bajillion different agents and the spouse ended up canceling my appointment, which happens. But I was in the game. You understand what I mean? I pushed the ball up the field. I kicked the ball up the field. Tristan's a soccer player. I moved that ball closer to the goal. Right? I didn't score, but I got a lot closer than I was before by taking that extra effort. All right, that's my little rant. Anybody else want to help Tristan out?
So, oh, go ahead, Blake.
No, go right ahead. I was only going to say that this actually is something that I'm dealing with right now, and not really dealing with, but that was going to be a subject I brought up, is how to how, because you can't necessarily motivate somebody, but you definitely don't want to miss that opportunity when the motivation is there, and you don't want to be forgotten.
Well, I think we should try to set that in-person appointment as soon as possible when they first reach out. And if you could go back in time, probably what I would recommend is when she said, I need to do some painting and stuff like that. That's a good opportunity to offer staging assistance or home preparation assistance and say, oh, I understand that your house isn't ready. And that's completely fine, but I would love to do a walkthrough. That's one of the services that I offer to the sellers that I work with, that I can walk through and just help you have a second set of eyes to see what kind of things you can do to prepare your house. Um, and because sometimes they're going to do things that really aren't going to get them much it's not going to get them much more money when they sell, but there are certain things that they can do, like painting and flooring and stuff, that will give them a good return. Um, One thing that I did a long time ago where I worked, we went through a course and I had to Google her name real quick because I couldn't remember, but her name's Barb Schwartz. She's the creator of the home staging series or whatever. And she created a course and I became a certified home stager. And you think home staging is with furniture and whatever, things like that, but that's not necessarily the approach that we would take most of the time. Most of the time, it's like, what can we do with what they already have in their house, their furniture that they have in the house, the little things that they can do to prep the house, like the landscaping and paint and stuff like that. She has books out there, so you could go and see if you could find a book. It's really good. The books, I think, are just as good as the course. But remember, I think I shared with you a staging document one time that you could put together your own staging document and just say, these are the kind of the basics. But if I can go out and take a look at your house in person, I can give you a more customized idea of, what we can do to prepare your home. And you can still do that though, even though that probably would have been good in that first initial conversation. You can still offer that now as something of value and see if she's open to that.
Great suggestion. Thank you, Angela. Thanks, Mike, and thanks, Blake.
What was the author again there, Angela? I wanted to look that up.
Barb Schwartz. And one that it says staging to sell, the secret to selling homes in a down market. I mean, it was a down market when I was taking her class. So I don't know if that's when the book first came out. I can't remember. But the broker that I worked for, he would always say it's a price war and a beauty contest. And so our goal was to have the best price and the best. Now, granted, not everybody's in the situation where they're going to do that, but having that as an option, it can be just as little things like deep cleaning. Those are things that just about anybody can do. Not everybody will, but just offering that as a piece of value to your listing process is good.
Excellent, excellent stuff there, Angela. Yeah, the decluttering would be the other term, decluttering, cleaning the property up for a showing. Because a lot of people, you live in your property, that's one state, and selling a property is a different state. So reasons you can, let me just back up, Tristan and Blake as well. But Tristan, this is great advice Angela just gave. You can just say, hey, I know you're making some improvements in that property. Why don't I come by to help you figure out which ones will add value and you'll get more money back than you put in, and which ones will cost you more money than you actually get back out. See, it's the second one they're going to move on. I don't want you to put money into this property that you won't get back out. if it's okay with you, I'm more than happy to come by and just chat with you for free, just for a few minutes and show you what's going on. And there's no cost to this. You have to tell people that there's no cost to this. I just want to come by and take a look and help you out, give you a little piece of advice. Would that be helpful? Would that be helpful? Would you like that? Okay. Would that be an assistance? Knock on the door with that, call with that, email with that, send a postcard if that's all you got, right? But yes, offering that is another piece of value. That's an excellent one, Angela, especially since this lady was fixing up the property. Any way that you can get in front of her is a win, even if it's only for 2 minutes. So knocking back on the door, she sees your face again, right? But just remember, you're bringing something. You're bringing something. Now, then once you get into the conversation, you can say, hey, how's it going? When are you going to be ready to put this beautiful home on the market, right? You can get into those questions while you're in dialogue, but the reason that you showed up was one of these items, the item of value. That's how you start the conversation.
And if she isn't calling you back, she's probably just busy, really.
That's okay.
But you could just leave her a voicemail and explain, I'm so sorry, I forgot to mention that I have this great service that I offer to sellers, and I think this would be a perfect fit for you. Give me a call back, and I've also got a brochure that I'm going to drop by your house later today or something like that. And then you could do a drop by too at some point, but
that's part of it.
Gee.
Go ahead, Tristan.
No, I was just saying these are great tips. I know exactly what to do now, and I won't be just knocking there kind of for no reason. Like, oh, you ready to sell yet? So I think this is a good approach to take in terms of just, hey, just wanted to help. I'm not sure if you were aware, and then boom, hit her with some value and then go from there. So thanks.
Good job, Tristan. And if all you've got is, hey, are you ready to sell yet? That's better than nothing. That's better than nothing. An attempt is better than no attempt, right? I cannot tell you how many times, either from myself or people that I've talked to, where they'll share a story of how they kept in touch with someone for 6 months. They kept mailing, calling, leaving voicemail. Nobody was answering, and they're like, yeah, I should have given up, but they didn't. They just kept dropping stuff on there, or they had it in their drip system, and then somebody calls out of the blue. You ever hear that? I got this call out of the blue. And then when you dig, though, it turns out that they were dripping information on them and giving them things of value of some kind. And oftentimes they kept the thing of value, like if it was a mail piece, they kept it and they even bring it out, right? And they show them, or it's sitting on their counter when they show up. Other things I think are old school and valuable, though, are like magnets that you can throw on the fridge, because people like to hang their kids' artwork and stuff up there. They just keep it. And I can't tell you how many times agents tell me they walk in and their magnet is sitting there, and that's why they got the call. So little things like that, all these little things you can send out there. So spiffs. But yes, I'll give you the final part of that. Most business, new business, people you don't know, most new business comes from follow-up, not the first contact. Okay. And when I've heard a lot of this over the time, I'd say roughly it's 80-20, right? 80% of their business came from the multiple follow-ups, but only 20% came from the first initial contact. No matter what they're prospecting or working or marketing, or what their attempts are. That's very rare for it not to be that ratio. All right, good job. That was a great topic. Hope that helped. Blake, you said you had a similar issue. Did we answer the questions for you as well, or did you have additional follow-up questions?
No, this is great. I've been taking a lot of notes. I think this covered it all. Just this idea. Well, first off, I appreciate just taking action, whether it's the ideal action or not, is not as critical as just taking action. Pick up the phone or do the text or drop the thing in the mail, whatever it is. But this idea of making an effort to bring something of value And you gave a lot of good suggestions of what can be something of value, gives you a reason to contact them. So I think this is wonderful. Great information.
Cool. I'll give you one more that just helped me with the listing that I currently have. It was a stranger, didn't know her. It was an old expired. I'd been doing the drip follow-ups, right? And then I got the reach back out from her saying, hey, I'm ready, come list the property. And I go over there and it turns out I'm in competition with 4 people. I didn't know. And so I think I'm going to get a come list me call, and it ends up, no, it's a competition call. And we had a very strange conversation and it was kind of weird. So, and at that point, after that conversation, I walked out there thinking, I'm not getting this listing. I'm wasting my time. That's what I thought when I walked out there. Like, this really went bad. That was really strange. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to just keep following up, and, I'll just reach back out to her. She likes text. So I texted her back, and I just, I just told her that. I said, this is kind of a weird conversation. Are you interviewing other people? And I get the impression you're interviewing other people. You've already picked another agent, and you just want to get the price from me. I'm happy to provide that. I just want to know where I stand. She's like, oh no, I'm interviewing all these different people, and I just want to make sure I do this right. And I said, I understand. And at one point in that follow-up, I just basically said this. I said, I really want to work with you. Let me know what we need to do. I really want to work with you. Let me know what we need to do. I really want to work with you. Let me know what we need to do. It's a very simple statement. That was the difference. I'm convinced that was the difference, because after that, I never heard about the other agents. And she just said, okay, I'm ready. Come on over. Let's get this done. Right? It's like that. I took it from the business level to the personal level. Do you understand what I'm trying to say with that statement? I just went from, hey, I'm here for you as a business person, to, hey, I want to help you, and just let me know what I need to do to get that done. Right? I want to work with you. I want to help you. Let me know what we need to do to get that done. By the way, I didn't have to change any of my terms. I got my full fee. Everything was fine. It's just that I showed I was committed to her. You understand what I'm saying? That I wanted to do the work. Sometimes that's all is necessary to push you above everybody else.
That's a great point, Mike, because I did something similar in my listing presentation that I had on Friday. And it was like at the end of the presentation, and I kind of felt like they weren't sure if they were going to use me. And I kind of stepped out of like business mode and took it more personal, just in the sense of like, listen, whatever I need to do in order to help you get this property sold, I'm willing to do, whether that's helping you move some furniture or things like that, move things around the house. I know you said you were going to hire movers, but I have some young guys I can bring to move some things around. So whatever we need to do to get the house sold, just let me know and we can get it done. And right when I said that, the wife's like, that's it, I'm sold. We don't need to speak with no one else. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was a great point, Mike. You're right.
That's fantastic, Tristan. That is excellent news. So you upped your service. You upped your service offer in that situation, right? You offered additional services. And that is the way we stand out from our competition. We offer something more of value. We've just been talking about this idea, this weird idea of value, but that was a value proposition to her that made a lot of sense. I'm going to get Tristan to help me out because I've been worried about how to move this furniture around, right? That's why you want to ask a lot of questions and find out what their pain point is, because then you can add that service level. See, that was my problem in my conversation. I couldn't get her to answer any of my questions. It was really strange. So it's very unusual. And so I didn't know where to take the conversation. And that's why I thought it died. And that's why at that point, I just had to go to, hey, I really want to work with you. But if you can find out what their challenge is, and if you can solve it with a service, and that's where Angela went, by the way, Tristan, with your lead, your listing lead. She said, hey, she heard you say she's painting, and she's like, oh, she's fixing the property up, offer her staging. You see what I mean? Angela's just such a natural. She just matched it. And that's what you need to start. I'm sure you're already doing it, but that's what you want to do in the future, is try to think of those value things that will add value to them for whatever their pain point is. Like Blake was talking about tenant occupied property, and I know what he did. He's very smart. He went and talked to the property manager. How many of the people listening would avoid talking to the property manager for fear that the property manager would try to list the property? Blake didn't do that. He just said, let's go right at it and start talking to the property manager, getting the property manager involved. And I heard him say, hey, this is a turnkey place where you got the tenant and you have a property manager. He's now promoting the property manager out there. See, it became a win-win for all of them. Anyway, so good stuff. Good stuff. I got to wrap this up. So we're going to wrap up the production call. Great job, everybody. That was a fun one. Let's now go into the huddle. And so the huddle, number one thing you did yesterday to move your business forward, number one thing you're going to do today to move your business forward. Who would like to start?
I'd like to start, please. Number one thing yesterday was getting that listing signed. So that was good. I was a bit nervous because I was like, why didn't they sign on the first time? And then I got maybe a bit like apprehensive this weekend. And then Monday morning he called me. So I was like, yes, okay, got it. So that was good. And then I had 4 showings. And then number one thing for today is to get my newsletter done and sent out, coming close to the end of the month. So I want to get that finished today.
Good job, Tristan. That's fantastic. Congratulations. Keep up the good work. All right, who's next?
Well, yesterday, I probably the most productive thing I did was not a pretty thing or a fun thing, but I spent about 3 hours doing research on this listing that I have that we're not getting any showings. And he's an engineer, she's in pharmaceuticals, so they're very detailed. So I wanted to make sure that I covered, turned every stone over to try and figure out the data for them. And so we had that call last night. That was the biggie. Today, on my lease listing that I have in Oklahoma, I got several leads, so I need to try to set an appointment for them, as well as we're going to be listing it for sale as well. So continuing with that.
Good job, Angela. Good job. And I think that's going to be more and more common as the market slows down. We're going to have these discussions with our sellers. So doing the analysis and these reports is going to be very helpful, and you should get used to that. The skills that you learn doing that are going to not only aid you in helping them make adjustments as you're moving along with the listing, but get it in the first place, because you're going to be able to bring that information into the dialogue right at the beginning during the listing presentation to set yourself apart. So good job, Angela. All right, Blake, what you got?
Yesterday, my number one thing was conversations with the property management company, with the property manager, and then with the property owner. Just really laying everything out and discussing the terms of the listing arrangement. And I got the details I needed about the lease so that I could discuss that properly with the property owner, because she wasn't really, she didn't know what to ask. She just like, go show it. So I helped her through that. And then today it's going to be, I presume I'm going to get that signed listing agreement. Then I'm going to need to start those wheels turning and get back in touch with property management, get a key, get arrangements. I'll talk to the tenant again. I've met the tenant, and we'll kind of tell her what to expect and how this will go.
Good job, Blake. Good job. Way to get that listing. Hope you're going to get that today all signed up on. But way to put yourself out there and position it properly. Can't wait to hear how it works out. Good job. Good news. All right. So let's see. For myself, yesterday, made 41 or 42 reach outs to expireds. Keep pounding that pavement on that. It's a tough crowd, but I'm finally starting to talk to some people, so that's good. working on another project I'll maybe share later. That ate up a lot of time. Today I've got a listing. I don't have a listing appointment. I've got a seller consultation to lead up to a listing appointment. We're going to talk about a couple things that we just need to address for her. Again, I'm not going to say what they are, but I'll just say that I want to give her advice on positioning herself before she sells the home. I'm going to leave it kind of vague like that. And she may decide not to sell the home after I share this information. But again, I want her to know all the things she needs to know before she feels like she's stuck in something. I want to have all the options. But anyway, I'm doing that. And then I'm also going to be doing a seller report for my listing, my new listing. I do that once a week, and I do that on Tuesdays. And I've shared that with you, the template for the email send out. So I'll be preparing and sending that out. And so that's for me. I just want to end on one thing that Angela said earlier, and I forgot to mention and to restate it for everyone because I thought it was really powerful. And you might want to write it down. She said that her prior broker used to use the term price war and beauty contest. Price war and beauty contest. When you hear things like that, you should grab onto them. They're so powerful. I have no doubt that he grabbed it from somebody else, but the fact that you make it yours and you share it and you use it, that's the power. And as we get into this slower market, which is going to be hitting the country in different areas at different times, I realize that. But that phrase, price war and a beauty contest, is going to be very powerful for you to get that over to your seller really quick, what's going on. All right, everybody, thank you for the call today. Have a fantastic and productive rest of your day.
All right, bye everyone.